The US Air Force has secretly been testing a new nuclear cruise missile designed to be launched by America's long-standing B-52 and the forthcoming B-21 Raider. Now, we've known about this new weapon called the AGM-181A Long-Range Standoff Cruise Missile, or LRSO, for some time now, but as far as I know, to date there's only ever been mention of one successful flight test. But according to a report that was just released, it's actually undergone no fewer than 9 successful flight tests. And one of them, which took place last October, flew with what was almost certainly an inert model of a W-80-4 nuclear warhead. Now, these W-80-4 warheads are actually a rehab and update of the long-serving W-80-1, which is a dial-a-yield weapon. And we call it dial-a-yield because you can actually set it to produce a fairly small 5-kiloton blast, which is about a third of the size of the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima back in 1945, or you can set it up to a 150-kiloton blast, or about 10 times the power of the Hiroshima bomb. Now, the Air Force has long-term plans to buy at least 1,000 of these new nuclear cruise missiles to replace its existing fleet of AGM-86B air-launched cruise missiles. And the AGM-86 actually has a pretty long and illustrious service history. It entered service all the way back in 1982 as a long-range addition to the airborne leg of America's nuclear triad. And that long-range part really matters for a platform like the B-52. The AGM-86 has a range of some 1,500 miles, which means B-52s could launch these missiles from well outside the reach of enemy air defenses and even combat air patrols. Now, these weapons are not hypersonic. In fact, they're subsonic, but what they lack in speed, they make up for in being exceedingly sneaky. The AGM-86 actually incorporated design elements from what really may have been the world's first stealth aircraft program, Boeing's Model 853-21 Quiet Bird. Now, the Quiet Bird was in active development all the way back in 1962 and 63, and at the time, we didn't know much about how to create stealth designs, so Boeing was literally reshaping the aircraft and sticking it in front of a radar array to make progress in a sort of guess-and-check manner. And after 2 years of work, progress is exactly what they made. But when the Army lost interest in what would have been the world's first stealth aircraft, Boeing turned around and incorporated what they learned into their new air-launched cruise missile design, which became the AGM-86. Now, we don't know much about this new cruise missile yet, but it will likely have even more range than the very long-legged AGM-86, but it likely won't be much faster. Subsonic flight just allows for far greater range, and when flying at low altitude and hugging the terrain, you can do a very effective job of avoiding detection or being intercepted. Now, the Air Force intended to have this weapon in service by 2030, but based on these tests, it looks like it's darn near ready to go now. However, it won't be until 2027 that the W-80-4 nuclear warheads will be ready for these weapons. The Air Force has said there's a possibility that they'll field a conventionally armed version of this missile further down the road, but to date there's no word on that. At this point, all we know for sure is that America's new long-range nuclear cruise missile is ready and rearing to go. And what that will ultimately mean is that the not at all sneaky B-52H will still play a pivotal role in America's nuclear triad for many years to come.